morning, Rancho. I'm your host, Sagittarius Bronco, and our guest today is City Council candidate Shawn Gordon, a 20-year resident, father of 5, technology entrepreneur, Grammy-nominated recording artist, and apparently a dialectician. Welcome to the show, Shawn. I'd like to jump in with some questions from our viewers that we've received recently, if that's okay with you.
Thank you, Sagittarius. It's good to see you in person. I never miss your show. It's fabulous.
Thank you for that, Shawn. Maybe you can also tell us some of your ideas you have about youth and the town and what they might be able to do.
So, some ideas about the youth in town. We have a declining youth population in town. Actually, the city population went down by 500 between 2016 and 2017. Not a huge number, 1% or so. But what I would really like to see is revive our teen council, which went away a few years back, and see what we can do in terms of organizing maybe more sports activities and leagues that are in that teenage range. The only real thing in town for the youth to do is the skate park, which is great that we've got. But we have the tennis courts, we've got the pickleball courts. San Mark has some really great facilities. I'd love to work with them closer in that regard. I'd also like to work with the Chamber of Commerce and the more than 1,100 businesses in town, maybe do a youth job fair, help people find jobs for these young kids and, keeps them busy, make some money, you spend the money in town. It's good for everybody.
Oh, beauty, eh? Thank you for that. Now maybe you can tell us about your ideas for housing and business.
Wow, the housing and business lease costs. So I don't hear a lot about the housing costs, although they are high. When I moved here, my house tripled in value at one point, went all the way back down to double. Now it's almost back up to triple. I don't know how a young family buys into here anymore, and there's really not a lot that you can do, frankly, without a collapse of the market, which is kind of what happened last time when the prices went down. Rents, all of that, as long as there's more people that want them than are available, prices are going to be high. It's going to have to collapse somehow, and that's unfortunate, but there's not really much that we can do as a city government. Now, with regard to the businesses, this is one of the most often asked questions. You see favorite restaurants going out of business, or other facilities, and people get word that the rent's $10,000, $17,000, $20,000 a month, and they go, wow, that's crazy. And we see places that have sat empty for years. I spoke with HUD about this, and they commented that they have seen this happen, and HUD is Housing and Urban Development, because a company who owns a lot of property is making too much money in one place and they need the write-off. And so they raise the rent. And if people pay it, okay, great. If they don't, then they have the write-off. I've also heard that there's some insurance plans that pay for that. And I've personally spoke to a number of these landlords, and they're quite hostile in terms of renting it. It seems like there's a point in time where they get active and want to rent it again, but these can sit empty for years. I'm not sure what we can do, but it's one of my top things that I'd like to try to address to find out what the incentive is. Part of it, of course, is probably a large portion is federal tax policy, where you have these incentives to get write-offs because of income, and so it would take a rewrite of federal tax policy.
I like what you are saying. Do you have some ideas about the law enforcement and the costs that we have associated with that too?
Law enforcement. Well, yeah, our sheriffs, they do a good job. We got a nice city. This is in 2016, according to FBI, for a population, city of our size in California, we were one of the safest around. Now, the 2017 crime numbers are out from the FBI. Property crime has increased to almost 20%. Larceny and theft increased about 23%. Those are probably attributable to the Propositions 4757, which let a lot of people out of jail. Now you have to, as long as you steal under, it's about $900 a day, it's a misdemeanor. They just let you back out on the street. So there's an incentive actually to steal, at this range. We did see about a 35% drop in violent crime and aggravated assault when you combine the two numbers. So that was good to see. Sheriffs, like I said, they do a good job. The budget for them is about $9 million a year. I just saw that the other day, and I believe it's projected to be about 58% of the budget, and it will continue to rise. The city council has actually very little that they can do to control that hasn't already been done. We are mandated to have a certain minimum level of staffing. The only thing you can really do is not staff beyond that, and there are open positions like preventative law enforcement that have been declined for years now. There is a multi-city task force that's been engaged since the beginning of this year, working on the solutions and working with OCSD. We don't really expect to get results from that probably until April. Hopefully there are some results. I think OCSD has to work with the cities because they're the ones that have the purse strings. I think a lot of it is pension costs, which you don't really have a whole lot of control over.
I'd like to ask you a follow-up along these same lines. With regard to drugs, illegal and legal, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, tying in with law enforcement and the drugs, legal and illegal. As I mentioned, we haven't staffed the preventative crime position for years, and this is what would typically go after the drug dealers and that kind of a thing. That said, our city has dozens of liquor licenses, but a total ban on any cannabis-related products such as CBD and such. I think that's a little bit disingenuous. I would really like to evaluate what has happened since the legalization of marijuana in the state, where it's worked, where it hasn't, what might be advantageous to the city. People are just getting it delivered. It's easy to get it illegal when there's no legal way to get it, so the kids can get it easier. I don't think it would increase crime. I'm sure it wouldn't increase crime, drug-related crime. Maybe people trying to break into the facility. So it's something that needs to be looked at, but I think it needs to be looked at again.
Now I'm sure you'd like to leave us with some parting thoughts, Shawn. So why don't you take 10, even 15 seconds to fill us in on all of your ideas. And I'd like to thank you once again for joining us here at Good Morning Rancho.
Parting thoughts. Thank you. I appreciate that question. I love this town, and I intend to stay here till my last days. I have joked, only semi-joking, for years that when I die, I want my house burnt down over me as my grave. I know I can't do that. The HOA wouldn't allow it. But I'm really only interested in one term to take care of what I see as looming long-term planning problems before they become emergencies. Part of my job as a technology guy, when I come in and I help companies, I find where the problems are. I try to solve the problems, not just short-term, but long-term as well. We want to address the fundamental systemic issues that are present so that we solve it out into the future. And that is something that I would really, really like to do. I get disagreement as to what those things are. I think budget is one of it. Chiquita Ridge is another. We have some zoning issues that are pending or possibly pending that I think can be nipped in the bud ahead of time. Big thing is just getting more tax revenue in the city. And I've worked to get a car dealership here, and they have signed a letter of intent to open their first facility here. This is an absolutely unique electric car that would become a destination for a lot of people. So I've really enjoyed all the support and the feedback from people in town when I get out and I'm talking to them, and I'd be grateful for their vote in November. Thank you.